I don't usually do TBR videos because I'm very much a mood reader, and so I don't like to restrict my monthly reading to any specific list of books. I like to pick up whatever I fancy in the moment, but I do still enjoy participating in read-a-thons, and so some foreplanning is needed in those cases. In April, I'm taking part in the OWL read-a-thon, which is being run by Book Roast, and I'm super excited because it's Harry Potter themed. So this video is going to be my options really for that read-a-thon. So it's kind of a TBR, but not a strict one. There are some categories that I only have one book in, but that's purely because I have one book on my shelves that I can select for that particular category. Now, the OWLs taking place throughout the month of April. There are 12 subjects that you can choose from, and you have to read 9 books to receive an outstanding on your OWLs, and I'm a super competitive person, so I want to read 9 books. Whether that's realistic, not sure yet. I've been reading on average 8, and I've got a few manga in here planned, so hopefully I can achieve 9. Also, I have chosen the career librarian, which I'm super excited about because, well, I love books, so librarian fits that quite well. But also the librarian career allows you to go off and explore in search of magical tomes, which sounds really fun. So there are specific OWL exams that I have to sit to achieve the career of librarian, and I will point those out when I get to them, but I am going to tell you what my potential TBR is for all of the subjects, and I will get to as many of them as possible whilst prioritising the librarian owls. So first up we have Ancient Runes, which is one of the exams that I need for my librarian career, and the prompt for that one is to read a retelling, and this is one of those prompts that I only have one book on my shelf that satisfies that particular category, and that is A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Brigid Kemmerer. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling which came in the February Fairy Loot box. I usually take part in the Fairy Loot read-alongs, but I didn't on this occasion because I wanted to use this book for this read-along. The next subject is arithmancy, and this is also a librarian subject, and the prompt for this one is to read a book by multiple authors, and once again there is only one book on my shelf which satisfies this category, and that is In Real Life by Cory Doctorow and Jen Wang. This is an independently published graphic novel with a very cute art style. It is about a video game, an online video game, where one of the characters is an avid player and another one is trying to trick the system, and the first character discovers the second character and they form a bond. It sounds like a really cute story. It's also a queer romance story, so I'm really looking forward to picking this one up. I was planning on picking this one up soon anyway, so I'm really glad to be able to pick it up for this read-a-thon. The next subject is astronomy, and the prompt for this one is to read a book with star in the title, and luckily this is not one of the librarian specific subjects because I actually don't think I own any books with the word star in the title, so I haven't picked a book for this. It's very unlikely that I'll be able to read 12 books in the month of April anyway, so I'm not too worried about it, but if by some miracle I manage to read 11 books and I'm thinking, gosh, I need a 12th book so that I can have completed all of the subjects, then I will just find a book with star in the title and read that. But as of right now, I do not have any books on my shelves that satisfy this requirement, and like I say, I'm not too worried about that because the chances of me reading a full 12 books in April, even with some manga and graphic novels, Very unlikely. Care of magical creatures is our next subject, and the prompt for this one is to read a book with a land animal on the cover. And I struggled with this one a little bit. Again, it's not a librarian specific subject, so it's not one of those that I am prioritising, but of course I would still like to read 9 books, so this is potentially one of the categories that I will do that in. And I had some difficulty finding books with land animals on the cover, because I think this very much comes down to interpretation. Do birds count as land animals? They're not aquatic animals, and they can move about on land, but they can also fly. So I don't know if they count. I'm going to count them because otherwise my options for this were extremely limited. So I've got Nevernight by J. Kristoff is one of my options. This is, I think, an assassin school type book, so as you probably know if you've watched any of my other videos, I love stories with assassins in them, so this is one option. And the other option I have is The City of... This one has a crow on the cover, as you can see. Then I have The City of Dreaming books by Walter Moers, and this has various mythical land creatures on the cover. And it is one that I do want to read, but like I mentioned at the beginning, I like to give myself options. So I've got a few other books on my shelves with birds on them, so there are some other options, but I think these 2 are the main ones that I will probably want to get to. This video is not going to limit me in any way. If I don't feel like reading either of these, then I will just pick up something different for this prompt if I get to it, but I am really looking forward to reading these 2 books, so I figure they're pretty good options. The next subject is charms, and again, this is not a librarian specific subject, so I don't have to get to this option, but the prompt for it is the charm age line, read an adult book. And quite a lot of the books on my shelves are adult, so I shouldn't have too much trouble finding something to read for this prompt, but I am selecting The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon, which I am hoping that I will be able to buddy read with my friend Nisha in the month of April. She's from the channel On the Margins of. She's waiting for this to come in at her library, so I don't know if we will definitely read this in April. It entirely depends on when it comes in for her, which is why I'm not too worried about this particular prompt, because like I said, I've got lots of books on my shelves that satisfy the adult category, so I'm selecting this one because I really want to get to it, but I'm only going to get to it if Nisha can get a hold of it this month or next month or whenever you're watching this, in April as well. Oh, also my copy is signed by Samantha Shannon. I managed to pick this up in Waterstones, where I think she was there on launch day. I didn't go, but I just thought I'd show you that. Then we have Defense Against the Dark Arts, which is a librarian specific subject, presumably because they go on adventures to recover magical tomes, and so they might need to have a few tricks up their sleeve in case something goes wrong. And the prompt for this one is the spell Reducto, read a book that starts with the letter R. And again, my options for this were very limited, but I have picked Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard, which will be a reread for me. I got this series from my parents for my birthday. I read book 1 a number of years ago before the rest of the books in the quartet came out, so I want to reread this one before getting to the rest of the series, and so I'm really looking forward to picking this one up, and it doesn't bother me at all that it's the only book that satisfies the prompt. Then we have divination, and this again is not a subject that I need for my career of librarian, but I'm still picking some books out for it just in case, and the prompt for this one is very aptly pick a book that is set in the future, and I do actually have a few options for this one. So first of all, we have The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers, which follows a girl that has joined a crew on the basis that she wants a quiet life, and then the crew accepts a really difficult but potentially very lucrative job, and she has to deal with the adventures that unfold. And then I've got Solaris, which is by Stanislaw Lem, and this is more of a classic sci-fi. These are all sci-fi books, which, you know, set in the future, that's pretty standard, I would think. This follows a character that goes out to a space station where the crew are slowly going mad from visions that he doesn't believe are happening, but then he starts seeing visions of his dead wife. So that's all I know about this one and all I want to know. And lastly, I have The Dispossessed by Ursula K. Le Guin, and this is actually the book for the book club that I joined in Waterstones in central London, or downtown London for you Americans out there. This one I have to read in April, but it does fall into a couple of potential categories, which you'll see. So I have to read this one, and so I will pick it up in one category or another. This book I don't know anything about at all, and I don't want to. It's sci-fi and it's for my book club, so I have to read it either way. I don't have to, but I want to read it either way because I want to go to the book club. And so I'm quite happy not knowing anything about it going in. Then we have Herbology. Pick a book with a plant on the cover, and I have a couple of options for this one as well. First we have Orange by Ichigo Takano, which is a manga that follows a girl who receives a letter from her future self telling her to follow specific steps. This has some pretty cute artwork in it, and it's a book that I'm really looking forward to picking up, and it's got trees on the cover. If I'm being honest, I will probably be choosing this one for this prompt if I get to it. The other option I do have though is The Foundation of Paradise by Arthur C. Clarke, but this also falls into another prompt which is librarian specific, and I will probably pick up for that prompt. Maybe, I'm not sure yet. This is a book that was gifted to me by Nisha for my birthday, so I don't really know too much about it other than the fact that it's one of her favourites, and so naturally I'm very keen to pick it up. I believe it follows a scientist who builds a lift to space, which sounds pretty cool, and there are trees on the cover, so it works for that one. But it also works for A History of Magic, which is the next subject and is a librarian specific subject, and it is read a book that is 10 years or older, and I'm taking that to mean was published longer than 10 years ago. And this one, it's in the Sci-Fi Masterworks collection, so I'm presuming it was published over 10 years ago. I haven't actually checked. 1979, I figured it would probably be fine. So this one satisfies that. So does The Dispossessed by Ursula Le Guin, I think. Probably better double check that, hadn't I? I'm pretty sure they all are, because they're in this collection, which means that they're classic. 1974, so this one's even older. And then Solaris is older than 10 years as well, I believe. 1970. So this one's actually 1970, 1974 and 1976, 79, I've forgotten already. 79. So those are my options for that one. Then we have Muggle Studies, which is read a contemporary book. And this is probably one of the ones that I'm going to prioritise the least because I don't have very many things to draw from. I have a few manga that could probably pass for that, but if I get to this prompt, I'll be reading To All the Boys I Loved Before by Jenny Han, because it is a contemporary that I have on my shelves. But like I mentioned before, the chances of me getting to 12 books this month is very unlikely, so this wasn't high on my priority. It's not one of the subjects that I'm going to be prioritising over and above the subjects for the librarian. Then we have the potions class, which is not a librarian specific subject, but is one that I am pretty interested to do because the prompt for potions is the next ingredient, read a sequel, and I've got tons of options for this one, so I've just picked out a few from my shelves, but I'm really not going to limit myself here. I'm going to pick up whatever I feel like. So first of all, we have The Obelisk Gate by N.K. Jemisin, which is book 2 in the Broken Earth trilogy. I read the 5th season this month, the month of March, so this one is a pretty high contender for this spot. No idea what it's about because it's a sequel, but it's an epic fantasy series, and I did find find book 1 very interesting. I'll talk more about that in my March wrap up. Another option is Glass Sword by Victoria Aveyard. This is book 2 in the Red Queen series, and this is purely on here because if I read Red Queen and can't wait to pick up the second book, then I can pick it up straight away and it will satisfy the potions category. And then I also have Crown of Midnight here by Sarah J. Maas, which is the second Throne of Glass book, which again I'm interested to get to, but I've got so many books that I have started the series. It used to be the case that I would binge read a series as soon as I picked it up and found one that I liked, but I don't seem to do that anymore. I don't necessarily mind flipping between different series, and so I do have a few books that will fall into this category. And finally we have the subject of Transfiguration, which is my final exam towards the career of librarian, and the prompt for this one is to read a book with a red cover or to read a book with sprayed edges. And I would like to pick up Monster by Naoko Arasawa for this prompt, but this is maroon rather than red, so I don't know if that's potentially cheating or pushing the boundaries a little bit. Plus the themes in this one are quite heavy, so I do have a backup, which is The Toy Makers by Robert Dinsdale, which has beautiful red sprayed edges. So I will pick up one of these two. This is going to be a fun, whimsical read, and this one a slightly darker read. This follows a doctor in post-war Germany following the birth of an abomination. I don't know much more than that, but I do know that it's pretty dark. I picked it up on the recommendation of Nisha again. She says that it's one of her favourites, so that's good enough for me, but I do think it's the kind of thing that I'm going to need to be in the right mindset to pick up. Whereas this one is about a magical toy shop, and I believe that it's a middle grade, so it should be more of an easy, fun, whimsical read. So two very, very different books for this category, which I kind of like because it really does let me mood read, which is kind of the point of having multiple books for each of these categories. And that's it. Those are all of the prompts and all of the potential books that I may read in the month of April. I will try and do some vlogs throughout the read-a-thon. Maybe I'll try weekly vlogging. I haven't done that before, but it might be interesting to give it a go, and because I'll be reading in a much more structured way, it might be an interesting social experiment, if nothing else, to see how I get on with balancing vlogging during the week and working and reading. But that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video and want to see more like this from me, then do think about hitting that subscribe button, and I hope to see you here again soon. Thanks. Bye.